CBS Atlanta News presents Public Affairs on Peach.
In April of this year, the FTC received over 200,000 complaints on unsolicited marketing calls. And that was a huge jump, fourfold from 2010.
And they're back, those annoying telemarketer phone calls that come into the homes all hours of the day. New York Senator Charles Schumer says some of these companies are bypassing the do not call list, and that is illegal. Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Adam Murphy, consumer investigative reporter at CBS Atlanta. Many people are annoyed by the telemarketers calling and flooding your voicemail boxes, even if you are on the do not call list. Joining me now is Cindy Liebes with the Federal Trade Commission. Thank you so much, Cindy, for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the do not call list, and have we made any progress? Because as we just heard there, complaints are still coming in.
We're getting a lot of complaints, but we've made huge progress. The do not call list is now 10 years old, and we have over 221 million phone numbers on the do not call list. So it is working very well. Most of you out there are probably not getting quite as many dinner time calls. But unfortunately, scam artists are getting around the do not call list because they don't care.
So what do you mean they don't care? What are they able to do to get around it? What are you seeing?
Well, quite often we're hearing a lot of complaints about robocalls, about calls that are unwanted, unsolicited, robotic calls that people are picking up their phone and there is a voice on the phone, often a recorded call, a pre-recorded call, asking them to press a number to listen to more information.
I mean, we all know that these calls are just so annoying. We've talked about it. Nobody likes them.
Yes.
It sounds to me like the do not call list, though, is not fail-safe here.
It's not fail-safe. It's working very, very well, but it's not fail-safe. Unfortunately, scam artists don't often follow the law. So what we also have to do is educate the public to let them know that they do not have to listen to these calls. They should just hang up and report to the Federal Trade Commission if you are receiving these type of calls.
Now, not everybody is on the do not call list. Is it a pretty easy process to get registered?
Very easy process. You can go to the Federal Trade Commission's website and easily register, very, very easy to register, and your number will stay on the list forever.
How does the do not call list apply to cell phones?
That's a great question. It applies to cell phones. You can register your cell phone as well as your home phone or any other phone. There has often been this email going around that says that your cell phone number will be given out and all sorts of fear tactics. That's not true. If you put your number on the do not call list, and it can be a cell phone or a regular number, that should stop some of the unwanted, most of the unwanted calls.
Now, as the Federal Trade Commission is concerned, what are you all doing to try to go after the scammers that continue to circumvent this do not call list?
The FTC has brought dozens of law enforcement actions against these type of folks that are circumventing the do not call list. In fact, we just brought one of the largest cases against someone violating the do not call list. They had over 5 million calls to people on the list, and we got the largest ever civil penalty against this company. It was, the civil penalty was over $2 million, and they had to pay to the Federal Trade Commission.
And so when you say they circumvent, they're just still calling people even though they know those numbers are quote-unquote on a do not call list?
Correct, or they're not scrubbing their list. They will get a list of people to call, and they're not appropriately scrubbing that list against the do not call list, which is what they are required to do. Sometimes they don't even register or purchase the do not call list. So it's a variety of cases we've brought, but we've brought dozens of cases both against legitimate companies who are not following the rules and against these robocall operations that are scamming people by telling them things like we can reduce your credit card interest. A lot of times you may have gotten a call from someone named Rachel or someone on the phone sounding like someone you might know telling you they can reduce your credit card interest rates. Oftentimes these are scams, and the FTC has been bringing cases against those types of companies. Also auto warranties, telling you your auto warranty may have expired. Press number 1 and they will give you information. Oftentimes these two are scams.
Here's something else to think about. What about when the telemarketers are actually scammers who prey on the elderly? Well, here's a story we want to show you. CBS Atlanta's Tony McNary has the story of one grandmother who lost nearly $200,000.
It was phone calls. Phone calls. It was many that I dealt with.
What did they tell you?
That I had won, I don't, millions or dollars.
Instead of winning millions of dollars, 86-year-old Lois Morrow lost her savings.
They started out like they were Christians.
U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement says fraud telemarketers in Jamaica and Spain started calling and sending Morrow letters. They told her she won the lottery and needed to send money for legal fees and transportation costs to get it.
In my mind, I knew where I was going to get the money to. I was going to help people with it.
Morrow kept sending money. Before she realized it was a scam, she had lost nearly $200,000.
She's back to counting her pennies and making sure that we can get from 1 week, she can get from 1 week to the next.
Beverly Gillespie says her family was in denial and didn't believe her mom was sending money to strangers. They became alarmed when they saw her bank account.
Getting to her purse strings by her faith in God, by using her religion, by softening her heart. They've managed to rip her off, to steal every penny that she ever dreamed of having.
The scam artist preyed on Morrow's faith for almost a year. They took money she worked many hard years to save.
I just believed them.
That's the sad thing right there. Just believe them. And they do come in, they call you, and sometimes they may not be legitimate companies. And you all have found many companies, too, that are circumventing. We've talked about the do not call list. In fact, you mentioned one a short while ago, and you guys took some action. The government did, right?
We did. We got the largest ever civil penalty against a company for a do not call violation. I think I said it was $2 million. It was actually $7.5 million civil penalty against this company. This company in particular was targeting military personnel and telling them they could get them a mortgage at a reduced rate. It turned out that the mortgages weren't exactly what they were promising.
So one thing I want to ask is, if perhaps you get a phone call and you know you're on the do not call list, whether they're scammers or not, what should people do? I mean, should they get the person's name and then the phone number that they're calling from and notify the FTC?
Yes, that's how we bring our cases. We have a registry called the Do Not Sentinel Registry, or the Do Not Sentinel database. It's a database of millions of consumer complaints. They come into not only the FTC but other government agencies and the Better Business Bureaus. From these complaints, we can bring law enforcement actions, and so can other government agencies, and law enforcement agencies worldwide can use these complaints. So we really do urge everybody, please complain when you've been victimized. If your number is on the Do Not Call registry and you're receiving a call, look at the number that's coming in. Let us know what that number is. You can also contact your phone company and have that number blocked. Unfortunately, though, some of the scam artists use technology so that the number that comes up is quite often not the number they're really calling from.
So they have a disguised number there.
Yes.
Where because they know they're violating this do not call list, so they're sort of putting up a front.
Correct.
And a phony number that may not necessarily go back to them or is not traceable, I guess.
Exactly. So the number could look, it could be an Atlanta-based number, a Georgia-based number, and in fact, it could be from somewhere in a foreign country.
And I think that's what gets a lot of people, too, is they see a local number.
Right.
When, in fact, it may be somebody that's in a different country, perhaps.
If you're receiving an unexpected call or you receive one of these pre-recorded calls, just hang up. There's no reason to listen, and there's certainly no reason to press a button, because often when you press that button, they're getting information from you that that number even exists. And when you engage the person in a live conversation, as we just heard, you can share a lot of information with them. They not only will try to take your money from you, but they may try to take your personal information from you. Oftentimes, they prey on people who are on lists or who are otherwise vulnerable. They'll get information from them. There are all sorts of scams, especially targeting senior citizens or people at home. We've heard of scams that are just proliferating. Foreign lottery scams where they tell you you've won a foreign lottery. You might not have even invested in that lottery, even bought a lottery ticket. you're probably not winning any kind of lottery, and in fact, foreign lotteries are illegal. Some other big scams that have been around forever, prize promotion scams. You've won a prize. You know what? Chances are you have not won a prize, and if somebody wants you to pay any money for that prize, it's a scam. But the most horrible some are what we call grandparent or family scams, where they will call you up on the phone and tell you, for example, your grandchild has been injured or they're stuck in a jail in a foreign country.
Yeah.
Please don't tell the son or the parent, please just send me money. If someone asks you to wire them money, do not do it. Check it out. Call the parents, because these scams are out there and they know what to say. They're very trained, they're very talented, and they will take your money. And once you're on one of their lists, sometimes there's no going back. Other telemarketers and other fraudulent marketers will then try to target you.
Wow, very good information.
Scary.
Stay with us, Cindy, because when we come back, we have more with you, more great information to help our consumers. And as we said, when we come back, we're talking about protecting your personal information, why you may not want to give out your zip code when you're checking out at the cash register. That story to come.